Undertale. Oh my god, I love Undertale. Undertale is so good. I love Undertale. So Undertale is out on the Switch now, which means it's only going to get another resurgence. Legit props to the Undertale community for sticking around and active this long, even though you've gotten jack shit in terms of official new content. I say official since there are a surprising amount of fan games, but this is about Undertale, the actual one, the to-be-determined one. Heck, even when announcing this, everyone was like, a couple years too late. But that's probably because their mindset was so crowded with Fortnite porn, they couldn't put the square into the hole when it's re-releasing. Despite the easy marks, I'm going to do my absolute darndest to not spend this entire video shining a light on the fandom, because pretty much everyone already knows about them, and even though it's what the hell is that? Put that shit away! So Undertale is an RPG made by Tobey Maguire, which is pretty freaking cool. Mad props to solo devs who can actually put out a game after receiving fan help, instead of just coasting off Patreon fun bucks and lies. Yes, you know who I'm talking about. Stop it. We're gonna put up all sorts of fucking warnings because this is delicate ground. To start off, there will be no story spoilers. Some gameplay aspects will be spoiled, but nothing that'll make it so if you're playing the game for the first time after watching this, you'll sit there being like, that guy, that's the guy he talked about, and he's gonna do thing. But I mean, probably everyone already knows everything about Undertale because of... I am gonna talk about some flaws the game has, but also point out the good parts and why I think it's a good game. Oh, they only heard that first part, huh? Alright, just gonna put this up and maybe one of these. A little right there. Alright, I think I'm ready. In Undertale, you can flirt instead of hurt, have a good tone to avoid the bone, stop, and go the entire game without having to kill anyone. But if you so much as trip over a fly by accident, everyone will be like, hey, what's up, cool guy? Remember that time you murdered someone?
Yeah, the stuff in my store is pretty neat for people who aren't murderers.
Fuck! I only have a few actual issues with the game. One being the graphics. I understand the simplistic nature as a solo dev, plus Tem. The character portraits are charming, but the overworld sprites just don't measure up to something like Cave Story, which is also made by one guy, but its simplistic style is a lot more appealing to look at, and stays a constant instead of tantalizing you with drastically different art for menus or fights. But my biggest gripe with Undertale is in fact the narrative. The Tale from Down Under boasts about how it's an RPG where you don't have to kill anyone, but the subtitle should be the RPG where you shouldn't kill anyone. Seriously, you monster, how could you even think? I swear to God, I'm gonna come to your house and heck you the frick up. The genocide route is kind of a mess. I understand pushing a message of kill is bad, don't please. But the extent this game goes to is borderline preachy. Like, I'm not gonna feel bad for being bad in a video game. Grinding is necessary, but the encounter rates drop so low after a short while to the point where it becomes a really big chore. You can even lock yourself out of the game if you don't play the route correctly. I can sort of see it though, going through all this unnecessary trouble for a big payoff. Plenty of games do that with either just flat out difficulty or optional fights, oftentimes rewarding you at the end, which isn't the case with Undertale. After you sludge through the route, the game continues to cram your face in a Bible while screaming, "Repent, sinner!" And you get literally zero rewards, only punishments. Again, from a narrative standpoint, yes, it gives the message that by moral grounds you are in the wrong. You are the villain. Good God, you're horrible. P.S. if you didn't know, you suck. And that can kind of be cool. The way the game messes with your computer is definitely an interesting concept. I thought it was a lot more interesting just having yourself shown as the villain. I didn't think it was interesting when the game tries to fake you out, pretending your game will never work again because you didn't sip from its fountain of knowledge or social justice. I bought a game, damn it. I don't want to be punished for playing it. It's like if you bought a movie and watched the deleted scenes, and then the movie just deletes all the other scenes because you watched something that wasn't supposed to be there. But after waiting 10 minutes, it calls you names and then starts up again. Plus, what some considers cool, others, such as myself, might consider cringe. Certain moments come off as really mediocre creepypasta, and too much fourth wall breaking can be exhausting in any medium. The game was obviously inspired by Earthbound, which did a good fourth wall break and left it at that. Near the end of the game, for any ending, it just becomes save and load, space-time, space-time. Anyways, let's talk about the rest of the game. Starting off with the gameplay / lack thereof. I personally hate turn-based RPGs, but I was still entertained throughout my play of Toby Flenderson's Broadway production of Monsters, Inc. Fighting is literally just picking the fight option over and over and then doing a small timed minigame. No special abilities or anything, just constant attacks, which is dull as poop-a-doop. The enemy's attacks can be best summarized by bullet hell light minigame games, which you often just dodge projectiles in various ways, with a few differences here and there, eventually transitioning into WarioWare Battle Edition. Battles if going the pacifist route boil down to encounter, reaction, dodging, and then repeating parts 2 and 3 until the end. But the fun part comes from the dialogue. To avoid killing, you normally have to do quirky things to your foes such as flirt, dance, fart, or some other random thing. Whereas this oftentimes will result in exhales out of the nose, it quickly loses its shine and almost certainly kills the replayability of the game. Your first encounter with a nugget might result in laughter when it barfs to attack, and you have to wonder if a pat on the back is the right choice, or offering it some antacids will subdue the foe. Once you find it out though, the magic is instantly lost, and any of the repeat of that monster becomes, okay, let me just do this to essentially one-shot him. And the reactions of the monsters become less and less charming. A repeat playthrough will become a chore since there will be nothing to surprise you or vary the combat the first time. You will essentially just be going through a list, which is also the case for a lot of characters. Many of them are praised, but are actually pretty one-dimensional, and the redeeming parts of most of them are essentially stemmed from a shock factor. You don't expect them to behave or do the actions that they do, but once you've seen it, there's not really anything else to go on. They make their joke and then they're done, which again, isn't necessarily bad. The story is pretty interesting, but again, the tale of Monsties in a Cave by Toby Starfox shoves its morals so far up your ass, it's hard to see it sometimes. Other characters in the game can grow as time goes on. They can make mistakes, some of them have even killed. They can learn from their situations, and they can change, but you can't. Undertale makes sure you are locked into a route, which is kind of weird considering it's supposed to be all like aware of you playing, but whatever. If you did a dirty and gave an ouchie to a Monstie, oh, you learned from killing something and felt remorse? You're ready to grow and avoid combat? That's great! But you still killed something, so the game doesn't reward you for actually following its narrative. Everything just becomes more and more difficult as you progress with no option to give yourself the upper hand outside of buying new armor. You can't grind otherwise. I'm all for a good story and powerful narrative, but I hate having things crammed down my throat. You can make me feel things without telling me I should be feeling them. Despite the gripes, I do think the writing is actually very entertaining. I had many chuckles and whatnot from characters like Pappy or Meta Tons of Fun. Outside of some staleness in battles periodically, the lack of replayability, and the whole genocide route, I thoroughly enjoyed the game. But this is a video that started with talking about negative things, so to a lot of peeps, I'm sure the reactions are along the lines of,
He hates it. Nothing he said can change that. His opinions are different, so I'm gonna tell him why his opinions are wrong.
But we'll give it a go at changing that view by diving into specifics of what I liked, starting with the story. I mentioned it a little in the genocide route, but the story does have a few moments that really let you feel the weight of your decisions. Very rarely in games when there is an evil route do I actually feel like the villain rather than just chaotic neutral or something. But one of the genocide boss fights really solidifies it that what you're doing is making Undertale's world view you as the final boss. On the opposite spectrum, the pacifist route, whereas it does get pretty, haha, I realize I'm game, what now, Mr. Player? It does have unique dialogue, some interesting mindfucks, and triumphant feelings, which it uses to disguise your inability to actually lose during that battle. It's also neat how many little nuggets the game has when trying to mess around with its files. When going through normally, there weren't really any downtimes per se. It just kinda kept you going, which is great if you're decent at games, because the difficulty spikes won't really hinder you. And since you're unable to grind, you just keep on trucking. But I mean, the easiest way to tell if someone has shit taste or is just hating on Undertale because it's popular is if they insult the music. I won't lie, when the fandom reached its pretty peak cringeitude, I got a dumb mindset of popular thing is bad. Damn it. But even at that point, I just couldn't bring myself to bash the music. There are so many great tracks in the game, and a lot of them help really capture a mood or impact a scene. That's what I was mentioning earlier about letting me feel things without just telling me. On the good end of the fandom, I have seen so many creative pieces come to light because of this game. Fan of it or not, a slew of talented fan art, animation, games, and music were created because of this. So much creativity and happiness was brought into the world because of Undertale. Despite how much you like or hate it, you gotta admit that's pretty cool. Sure, there's a lot of cringy stuff with the community too, but there's plenty of posts, videos, and what have you about that stuff. I figured I would simply give my experiences as someone who enjoyed the game, but views it as it is, a game that's worth the play, well worth the price, and has instilled plenty of peeps with confidence and determination. Besides, if you like the game but hate its community, it's not like you have to be active there. I like parts of Rick and Morty, but Lord knows I'd never willingly converse with someone wearing a Pickle Rick shirt. Just like I like Undertale, but that doesn't mean I have to talk to fans or be lumped in with stuff. No. No. You get out of here. You were hidden for a reason, you piece of